What's up, everybody? This is the Tied to the Land podcast, where we believe that everybody is tied to the land in some way, shape, or form. On this podcast, we'll explore the intimate connection that people feel with the land beneath their feet, while telling the stories of folks whose lives have been impacted by their roots to the rural lifestyle. This podcast is brought to you by Arrowhead Land Company, where their mission is to create, inspire, or advance a connection to the land in every person throughout the world. What is up, everybody? My name's Andrew Schultz, and this is the Tied to the Land podcast. We've got Braden Finnegan here with us today. Braden, how's it going?
Man, it's going good. I'm happy to be here.
Right on, man. We've had some technical difficulties getting you going. Where are you at? Where are you coming to us from?
I'm
Rough
in between.
internet?
Yeah, it's been the struggle bus. I need like a Nokia flip phone, like old geezer when it comes to that. But I'm in between hunts right now. I'm just finished up an axis deer hunt and headed over to New Mexico to start scouting for elk season, getting cameras out, watching fuzzy bulls, doing all the formalities of elk season before we get to go have all the fun come September.
Cool. Awesome, man. So you're in Texas right now?
Yep, I'm at my parents' place in Texas right now.
Right on. Yeah, you're kind of a world traveler, so internet signal is not guaranteed.
Never
Good
is.
quality video, not guaranteed. Usually you're on a mountainside somewhere.
Exactly. You're lucky we caught us in town, so.
Right on, man. Right on. So tell us about who you are, what you're doing. Give everybody a Cliff Notes version of who Braden Finnegan is and why we're talking today.
For sure. No, I'm a New Mexico transplant. Family's from Texas and Oklahoma. Moved out there when I was in middle school and just decided to never leave. And grew up in the hunting, fishing world. My dad got me into it and just had a crippling addiction to it. Skipping school to go hunt. We'd find sheep from the high school parking lot and skipped a few too many basketball games and practices to go chase elk around. And my basketball coach was like, hey, you might as well, if you're going to skip school, you might as well be a guide. And he kind of got me into that world, and I just never left. So right now I run an outfitting operation in New Mexico, Texas, and Montana. It's called Collis Guide Service. We run pretty much 300 days a year doing, if you name it, we're probably hunting it. We kind of specialize in the sheep game in New Mexico and Texas, and do a lot of our volume in the nastiest mountains you can find in between those two states. So,
Right on. So how old were you when you started guiding?
So in New Mexico, you got to be 18 to start guiding. So my 18th birthday, I went to our game and fish office, took my guide test, and the next day I was on an oryx hunt. So been guiding full time ever since. Did my senior year of high school online. I'd take my computer with me to camps and guide all day, cook dudes dinner, wine and dine them, do their thing. They'd go to sleep. I'd jump on the computer, knock out school real quick, and wake up a couple hours later and wash, rinse, repeat. So been pretty much running and gunning with it for the last 6 years now. So
That's cool, man. So what was it like as a 18-year-old young man getting into that business and dealing with guys who are probably double, triple, maybe even quadruple your age, and in some instances, dudes who have seen a lot more in life than you have, and then them having to lean on this kid for their odds of success? What was that like for you?
it was an interesting struggle. I wouldn't trade it. If I had $1 for every time an old geezer would tell me, son, I've been doing this since you were in diapers, and be like, yeah, but you're not doing it here. And it was kind of, I carry my pride on my shoulder. I have an ego that barely fits in my truck half the time, as Andrew knows. And you would kind of just roll up, and you just had to prove it. You have to prove your worth. These guys are spending a lot of money to be there. And that first day was always, you had to play for all the marbles right off the bat and prove that you're worthy of their money and their business. And pretty much if you knocked it out of the park the first day or two, then they're willing to drop everything and trust this kid that they met on a Friday before their hunt. So it made you make sure you're on your game and not messing around, and there's no room for error. You didn't get a second chance. You had to make the first one count.
Let's dive a little deeper into that. I have always known you as a confident person, and I love that about you. Do you feel like, you use the word ego, or maybe I started out using the word ego? Um, do you feel like getting into that business, being a hunting guide from such a young age, like it forced you to have a chip on your shoulder that maybe you didn't even really want to have? Like you felt like you had to be someone that you maybe weren't in order to earn the trust of these guys, or like to feel like you were on the same level as them? Or have you always had kind of that chip on your shoulder? Or I
Yeah.
guess ego. I want you to talk
Yeah.
about ego, because I know you've shared some stories with me too where ego has been a shortcoming in some instances in your guiding career, your outfitting career, whatever it may be. So, like, just dive into that a little deeper.
Yeah, it's something that I've kind of always had from like even in high school playing basketball or shooting archery on our 3D circuits, and it was something that was always a driving factor for me. Um, Not necessarily to the level it's at now. Um, there's pros and cons to having it, I feel like, but it certainly is something that kind of subconsciously always drives me. Like I set these certain expectations for myself because of it. It's like, hey, you're known for this. You're known for maybe it's this hunt or this species. Like people look at you and look at you in a different light, and you have to maintain that. And there's times that it's helped me out tremendously where I'm getting my teeth kicked in on a hunt, nothing's going right, and it's that little like voice in the back of your head, like, hey, like this is going to really hurt if you don't pull this together and figure it out. And then, like you said, Andrew, there's times that I get a little too prideful and carry myself a little too, put myself on a little too high on that totem pole and trip and fall, and you get a big piece of humble pie. But that's just kind of the nature of the beast. We have the outfitting world's hyper competitive. Everybody's got an ego, a chip on their shoulder. It's just the nature of the beast. When you're talking about the most premium hunts in the West, everybody's fighting for competition, fighting for clients, competing for who killed the biggest bull or the biggest sheep year in and year out. So it's kind of the nature of the beast. So you have to be polarized. You either have to be on one side of the spectrum where you're the most humble human being out there and people see that, or you have to carry it on the complete opposite side of it. But if you like wander back and forth in it, just doesn't pan out. People see it and it just doesn't really work. It's a really weird dynamic. My mom always teases me, and she was like, "Your whole industry's full of kindergarten politics and pride, and like if everybody was just humble and did their own thing, then everybody would be okay." But that's just not how it's wired. So it was that was the path I chose. It may be the dark side, it may be the right side, but who knows? But it definitely has gotten me in trouble. But on that flip side of that token, it's been that little voice in the back of my head to keep me pushing, and I've been successful when others haven't, and solely because I'm trying to maintain an image for my business, my company, and that helps my clients be successful, and it's panned out this far. So we've had a couple more deep dives about it, and it's a slippery slope, and I don't know if there's truly a right answer, but that's what works for me and my boys. We all kind of, outside of one of our guides, we're all the same, wired the same way. We carry a level of confidence and strut that line back and forth every day, and we're very successful because of it.
Who's that guy that you would say is kind of different? Because I have a name in mind
Yeah,
that I was going to bring up.
you're
I'm wondering
thinking
if
of
it's the same.
You're thinking of Derek Martinez. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Derek
So tell
Martinez.
me about Derek.
Yeah, he I've known him for a couple years now. We met sheep hunting of all things. It was when I was selling real estate, and I was shouting for an oryx hunt, and rolled up on this glassing knob in the base of the cliffs and sitting there glassing, and phone number from New Mexico calls me. I answer it. Being a real estate guy, you answer if it has the right zip code, no matter what. I answer it, and he was like, "Hey, is this Braden?" I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Hey, I'm up here on the mountain right now. You busted a band of sheep out from underneath us." My numbers plastered across the side of my truck. And I was like, "Oh, dang, that stinks." And I was like, how'd I do that? I was like, how'd you get my number? He was like, your truck, bro. I was like, oh, yeah, that would do it. And he was like, can you help me find him again? I said, what is it? And he's like, it's a band of 3 U's. We're just trying to get my buddy Micah just a sheep. And I'm like, okay, sweet. And we're talking about Audad. And so I turn around. I was glassing out in the flats for Oryx for Gemsbuck. And I turn around and glass in, can't find these U's. And a couple minutes later, I just see 2 cranker rams, like the equivalent of shooting a 200-inch whitetail. Like just Godzilla up there walking around in the bluffs. I'm like, oh my lands. And I had a game time decision. I have a sheep tag in my pocket. I'm in range. They're in range. They aren't the sheep that they're looking for. And the one time I put my pride aside, I called Derek back and I was like, hey, dude, I got something better for you. Told him where these rams were. They ended up killing one and kind of been bros ever since. And Derek Martinez is like the one that keeps all of us in check, makes us, we've all kind of talked about it, me and all of my guides. You're like, we want to be more like Derek. He's just this quiet, super humble kid, doesn't cuss, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. Like you'll see steam billowing out of his ears, matter and all get up. He'll be sitting there just, frick, man, this is stinky. And you're like, but I'd be sitting there saying things that make a nun blush. So he's just an awesome human being. Makes everybody want to be a better version of themselves. And I'm super fortunate to have him. Not this big prideful hunting guide thing doesn't match with some clients, and the guys that are humble and don't want to party, just want to be there and hunt hard. Derek takes them. They have a fantastic experience with him. So
Yeah. Yeah, man. Last time I shared a camp with you, well, I guess not the last time, but the time before that was for my elk archery hunt, which anybody who's listened to this podcast has heard plenty about that. So we don't need to get into that today unless you want to tell your side of that story. But Derek really left an impact on me through that humble demeanor, and that you could tell he was just willing to do anything, willing to do whatever, and didn't seek any recognition or glory or praise for it. I mean, he was putting guys on bulls and giving them opportunities. Even when for the first couple days of my hunt, we weren't on bulls and getting opportunities, you know what I mean? And he has just stood out to me ever since that hunt. And so I was wondering if that's the person you were referring to, because I think as a hunter in camp and as somewhat of a, a prideful, driven, competitive person myself, I think that I have to keep myself in check when I'm going into an element that is not my area of expertise, and trust in the guide, trust in the person. But there's been times where, I think of, for those of you listening, like Braden's like my little brother slash son. You call Julia me mom and dad sometimes,
yep.
But in that world, you're the expert. But there's also been times where I wanted to smack you upside the head and be like, dude, who are you trying to fool right now? Like, I know who you are. You don't have to put on a front for me. Like, let's just hunt and hang out and soak it in. And like, you don't have to play super guide with this chip on your shoulder around me, So what you were saying earlier about not being able to be in between, I don't know if I fully agree with that, dude. I
Yeah,
think,
it's a
go ahead.
slippery slope. Like it's a hard thing to explain outside, like if you're not in that industry. And I don't know if I even fully comprehend it to an extent. And but yeah, like we share a brotherly love. Like we'll sit there and shoot each other straight, no ifs, ands, or buts, and I think it's healthy for both of us. And yeah, sometimes it's like it's hard to switch out of the super guide mode. You're doing it so much, so often. It's like they get to show up, and it's times that, like you said, I can relax and hang out, and we're gonna go hunt hard and have a good time and get a bull killed, but we can just have a good time with it. We don't need to be playing for all the marbles right off the bat. So
Yeah, man. And I think, based on my limited experience sharing camp with others, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, of course, whoever's there, they pay money for a hunt, they want to kill something. But I really feel like ultimately they want to have a good experience
Mhm.
and they want to experience good camaraderie and they want to share laughs over a meal or a beer or, whatever it may be.
Yep.
Would you say that's a fair statement, or how often do you get somebody so wrapped up in just killing an animal that none of those other things matter to them? I mean, it's not like you have a bunch of Cameron Hayneses in your camp, and I'm not suggesting anything about Cam's personality or what he's like in camp, but that dude wants to kill.
Yep.
Is it fair to say that the larger percentage of your clients are not as concerned with that as they are with just like having a great experience?
It's about a coin toss nowadays. We carry a certain culture that we look for, and like a lot of our clients carry that same culture. And we have hunts that are a little more laid back and a little more of, hey, we're just gonna go have a good experience. Like you guys have been on a couple cow elk hunts where we get up when we get up and we go out there, we cruise around. We know we're gonna shoot one, so we'll sit there and maybe stop for lunch, have a good time with it. And then there's other hunts that are kind of carry this persona of we're playing for all the marbles right off the bat. And I feel like the one of the things that I really look for and work on personally, whether when I'm looking for guides or even like having some self reflection, is being a chameleon. It's one thing my basketball coach has always told me, and he's who got me into guiding. He was like, "You just got to be a chameleon, bro. We can sit there and have good bro talks and talk about faith, talk about us, what this hunt means to us, and then have a powerful hunt where it's moving and spiritual, and then we have another hunt where we're partying, having a good time, carrying on, and then being able to flip that switch. Our hunts are Saturday to Wednesday. You get Thursday to pack up, recoup. Friday, you're meeting your next set of dudes. So you'll be on carrying one camp culture for 1 week. You get a day to unwind, and the next day it may be one of those guys who is hard nosed and hard charging, and you've got to match that energy. So it's something that's always fluid. It's dynamic, and that's one of the things that you can be a great hunter. You can be a great people person, and being able to combine those two things is kind of a hidden gem right now. To be one of those top tier guides that we're really looking for. Um, yeah, it just kind of depends on what's going on with it, and but yeah, no, we definitely have both sides of that spectrum, and sometimes they mix in camp. Sometimes you get guys who are wanting to, like my elk season this year. I've got 4 guys coming September 15th for our second archery hunt, and 2 guys are just wanting to go experience the elk rut and have a good time and call bulls in. I've got 2 other guys who they could be sleeping in the back of the truck. They couldn't care less. They just want to go hunt their brains out and kill a giant bull. No frills. They're going to eat a bar for breakfast, a ham and cheese for lunch, and a mountain house for dinner and go to bed, wash, rinse, repeat. My other guys, I'm sure they're going to be at the Western Bar and Grill having a good time at lunch and going out there. So you just have to match those guide personalities and those things. And whether it's one of those guys who can be a chameleon or one of those guys who's a little more soft spoken from time to time or hunts hard, that's part of the art of outfitting, is matching those personalities to make sure those people who've paid a lot of money are getting the experience that they're looking for.
Yeah, no doubt. So you referenced faith earlier. What has your journey along the lines of faith been like in this business? And you and I have talked at some of your highs and some of your lows, but what has your faith meant to you throughout this whole process of building a career, starting out as a hunting guide, getting into real estate for a little bit, which we haven't really talked too much about yet, to now running your own outfitting business, call us. Where's your faith been in all that?
It's whether I'm practicing or not, it's always been there. As any young guy, I've struggled and fought with my faith and figuring out where my purpose. I mean, truly acting on my faith, not just saying I'm a Catholic or this or that or the other. And hunting's truly brought me to be more confident in my religion. Born and raised Catholic, still am, and um, had some struggles. Got on with what I've always wanted to be a guide. That's one thing that, I mean, has been apparent. I mean, my mom's got like art projects from fourth and fifth grade of the what do you want to be when you grow up, and I had like just read a Jack O'Connor book, and I was like, I want to be a sheep guide. Do I have any connections to Dall sheep hunting right now? No. Do I have any way to get there? No. But it's always been in the back of my mind, and um, I I've picked some jobs that trying to allow me to continue to guide. So right out of high school, went through the fire academy, got onto a pretty prestigious fire department here in New Mexico, and um, God made it very apparent very quickly that that's not where I was supposed to be, and my way to pay my bills was guiding. So jumped back into it, and every time that I've kind of meandered away, um, God sucks me right back into it. I've been so blessed and been shown so much favor. If I put my trust in God and my faith and knowing this is where I'm supposed to be, he makes it just beyond beautiful. I mean, I've had some amazing opportunities, met some of my best friends through this industry, and I truly wouldn't trade it for the world. So, in a way that is kind of convoluted and jumped around, it's led me to my faith, which I think is super powerful to me. Is God showing Himself in my life through my career, through my business, being shown tons of favor, and it's the only reason I can say that I've been as successful as I am because God has His hand in it.
See, that's really interesting to me. Um, and that's amazing. I love to hear that. So you just equated your success to God and your faithfulness to Him. So maybe it doesn't have as much to do with having that chip on your shoulder and carrying that big ego that you feel like you have to keep up as a hunting guide in that industry. Do you think God? Do you think that's what He wants for you, or do you
Man,
think He values the Derek Martinez's of the industry
I
who are quiet and
yep.
humble and go
At the
ahead?
end of the day, we were sitting there, and I hate to be this. Back in my day, I was playing basketball, and I'm gonna do it. It was a very profound moment that spoke a lot to me. My coach, Coach Shockey's a younger guy, kind of wired like I am, chip on his shoulder, and we were sitting there, and we were down a couple points at the state finals, and he's sitting there, and he doesn't know what to say. He's normally one of those guys who walks in, breaks a clipboard over somebody, and scream yells at you, and he comes in all quiet. I'm like, oh, this is really bad. And he goes, boys, who knows the Beatitudes? I'm the only Christian on the team. And I was like, slowly put my hand up. He was like, what's the one about being meek? And I was like, humble are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. And he goes, yep, but they'll never win a basketball game, boys. And breaks a clipboard and continues to yell at us. And it's it's something that I've bounced around with, struggled with, and I don't know if there's a right answer to. Um, but it's definitely getting a slice of humble pie every once in a while makes me realize I'm like, all right, I am human. I am gonna make mistakes, and at the end of the day, God's gonna make happen whatever is supposed to happen, and we'll just go with the flow. He's got me this far, just gonna keep rolling with it, and He makes all of us the way we're supposed to be. And if He made me this way, then I'm not one to argue with that guy. And if I'm supposed to be another way, He's made it really apparent sometimes. So I'm just going to keep following His path and see where it takes me.
Excuse me. Yeah, man. So have you, is there a particular hunt or story in your career that stands out where you were like, whoa, okay, I just ate not just a piece of humble pie, but I just ate the whole pie, or it was served to me on a platter. Like, is there any story in your mind that sticks out in your career guiding or outfitting or even in real estate?
More so on the real estate side. The guiding side, it's just a constant kick in the teeth. Like, you make some of the best stocks of your life just to watch an arrow get shot over a bull at 12 yards. You're like, dude, you got something the size of a trash can lid to hit. How are we missing that? So it's kind of you're going to get your teeth kicked in. And I've cried more in hunting camps than I have at funerals. That's just how it is. Like, knock down, drag out, my steering wheel's getting beat up. But the real estate side is really where I learned it, where I was like, oh, couple big deals fell through, and you want to be like Andrew and I have talked before. I want to be the guy with all the answers because that's how it is in the hunting world. People go to you, they look at you as a wealth of knowledge, and hey, why'd this bull do that? Why'd this situation pan out that way? And I'm always able to have that response compared to the real estate where I'm a young guy who hasn't been there and seen everything, and you go and you get excited about closing the biggest deal of your life, and then you get kicked in the teeth, and you're like, whoa, okay, I didn't know everything. I didn't know how to. If I did, I would have handled this situation this way or that way or another. And that's really where it it brought me back down and showed me that I was human and I was going to make mistakes, and really taught me how to persevere through those. And yeah, you just got bent over on something. How's that not going to happen again? What'd you learn? And that's kind of one of the things that tried to take into the rest of my life in business, of understanding that those places that I get served those big pieces of humble pie, I'm getting served them for a reason, and sitting down and looking at that reason, and learning from it and carrying on, and being better at the end of the day, being better off than I was before. So
Yeah. So what caused you to want to get into real estate to begin with? Because you were guiding,
hmm
and then and you were doing the firefighter deal before
yeah,
that. But what caused you to want to get into real estate?
I lost a bet with client pretty much. Um, we were sitting there and he mentioned it on a hunt, and um, he was like, "Man, this is a really good match for you with your clientele that guiding brings, and this and that and the other." And I'm like, "Yeah, it would be a good fit." And my dad's always he's like, "Hey, you need an adult job." That was always his jam until as of recent when I started the outfitting company, he realized really what it was. And um, I was like, "Man, this would be kind of cool getting into the ranch sales stuff." And the it seemed like a fantastic idea and something that would fit my lifestyle really well. And that having that competitive side within a business is always I'm hyper competitive. I'll flip a table over a game of checkers. So the ranch sales having that competitive nature really drew me to it. I was sitting there, and the guy's like, "Well, you might as well interview." Like, I don't know. And I told him, I was like, "If you shoot this bull down here," he was fixing to go on a stalk. I said, "If you go down there and shoot that bull, then I'll go ahead and interview." And he's like, "All right." And he made an awesome stalk, shot a bull at like 10 steps, 12 steps. I mean, and that bull's chilly. And I was like, well, looks like I'm interviewing. And I've been kind of praying about it, had some opportunities to be a full-time, like on staff guide, some guys in Texas, didn't really know where I was going to go. The young guy was like 19, really didn't know where life was going to take me, still green behind the ears, and jumped into it, had an awesome year or two run in it, 2 or 3 year run in it. And it just got to the point where I wanted to start to prioritize my true passion, that guiding and outfitting, and started my outfitting business. Ran the real estate stuff as well, and I was kind of having a come to Jesus moment where both of them were struggling. And Andrew told me, he was like, "Hey," it was back to that brotherly love thing. And he was like, "You got to pick one. Like, you can either excel in real estate or excel in guiding and outfitting, and you need to be able to put all of your focus into one of these things, and then you need to figure out what you want to do." And just took to the outfitting, took it running, and that business has blown up. I mean, I went from a handful of hunts here and there and having to guide some supplementally through some other guys, and now I've got full-time guides. I've got guys helping me out. We're running almost 40 hunts in New Mexico this year alone, let alone other states. And it was it was kind of one of those stepping stones of I learned a lot of the business side of things. Maybe not didn't do as great on the real estate side, but the lessons I learned in it are going to help me excel within my other business ventures later out.
No doubt. Yeah, we talk to a lot of people and a lot of our own people here on the podcast who are getting into real estate, and it's not for everybody, and it is a absolute grind. And a lot of people don't really expect that when they get into the business. They feel like it should happen more organically, and I'm not suggesting that you felt that or thought that, but there may be some people who are in the business who are thinking like, maybe I thought this was for me and it's really not, or maybe um, I thought I would like real estate, but it turns out I just really like building homes, or I really like being a guide, or I really
Yep.
like whatever. I mean, what was it like when you were wrestling with some of those thoughts of like real estate wasn't going the way you'd hoped? You're still secretly longing for more in the guiding, outfitting space. What was it like wrestling with some of those demons and trying to gain clarity on what the path forward was going to be?
For sure. There was a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of praying. And for me, it was one of those things. Real estate logically made sense to me with the clientele that we have in the guiding and outfitting world. You have that level of people who are buying high end ranches, buying investment properties. It's a great networking tool. You get to go, you build trust and rapport with people, and pretty much every high end outfitter out west carries a license or has a brokerage. You may not hear about it, but they kind of go hand in hand together, and it just logically made sense to me. Jumped in it, and I did. I was one of those guys who fell for the trap where I was like, "Oh, this is gonna happen. This is gonna be great. I'm gonna crush it." And I had some awesome mentors that just made it look easy, and you're like, "Oh, sweet. This will be cush." And then very rapidly you realize the nothing's handed to you. Nothing is a given. No deals are guaranteed. Everything that you get in that world, you fight tooth and nail for, and which I thoroughly enjoyed. The satisfaction of closing your first real estate deal is huge. You get that check in the mail. It's half of what you think it's going to be because that's just how that world works. And then you're like, okay, and you set aside for taxes. And even though it wasn't what you thought it was, like you want to frame it and put it on the wall. Like I about didn't even cash my first one. I just sat there and looked at it on my desk for like 4 days. I was like, this is sick. And so you go and you take these giant shots to your pride, and you're sitting there getting your teeth kicked in, and but you feel so validated. You're like, I am crushing this. Um, but at the end of the day, it was like taking away from my true passion, and that was the one thing. It come. I'd guide my brains out from September to December, January, kind of do some oddball hunts here and there in the spring and summer. And that spring and summer, I just felt empty. I'm like, this just isn't me. I was like, this isn't going the way I thought it was. I'm going and fighting tooth and nail to grow this business, and it's kind of just chugging along. I'm paying bills pretty much, and just wasn't going anywhere. And that's when I really again turned to my faith, and I was like, where am I supposed to be? And my best friend's mom gave me an awesome analogy as a young guy, and she was like, God's plan for you is like a highway. You're going to be driving down the road. There's exits you can take, this, that, and the other. They all get you different places. But once you start getting off the road, you hit a rumble strip. And if you're not paying attention, you hit the guardrail and you really get sent back into the middle. God has a tendency of hitting me with guardrails. I kind of forget about the rumble strips, and it I got shot right back into where I needed to be, and um, built my testimony. And I was like, okay. I was like, this makes sense. I was like, this is where I'm going, and it, I put all my eggs in the basket of the outfitting and haven't looked back since. So it was one of those things where I was enjoying it. I wanted it to be successful logically, but in my heart of hearts, I knew this wasn't where I needed to be for the rest of my life. And God made that very apparent for me and shot me right back where I was supposed to be. So
It's weird, man. I hear humility in your response. So I know that's in you.
oh yeah,
Uh,
there's a little bit
all
somewhere.
joking, all joking aside, do you think you could ever see yourself getting back into the real estate business? And then
Always.
another question I have in regards to that is, do you feel like had you not been so young and maybe had some more life experience, maybe more experience already in what your true passion was, which was guiding, do you feel like that opportunity would have panned out differently for you?
I think the opportunity definitely would have panned out just from the business side. Like I would have learned my business lessons via my outfitting company compared to my real estate company. So yeah, I definitely would have had a different turn. Um, but yeah, I don't know if I would take it the other way. Like, I don't know if I'd be willing to sacrifice uh, my learning the less. I learned lessons the hard way. I have to get kicked in the teeth. That's just who I am. And so I don't know if I'd be willing to sacrifice those lessons via my outfitting company compared to my real estate company. Like, just kind of how it makes sense to me. But at the end of the day, I'll always carry a license. Working on getting it back right now and getting it hung, because it does logically make sense to have. I mean, I've missed out on some big fish deals that I've had to shoot over to buddies and say you're welcome and buy me a dinner or something. Um, to where if I would have at least had a license, and I can go and do those transactions, and then at the end of the day, they're awesome. Like, long-term plan for me, having rentals, having, whether they're short-term, long-term rentals, multifamily properties, it behooves of you to have your license to do those transactions yourself, save yourself some cash. So it's something that I'll always have, but realize that it's a tool in my toolbox, but not necessarily how I'm going to make my living.
Sure. Yeah, man. I mean, I think it's safe to say that God had a plan for you throughout all of that. And although it was hard on you and you felt like you were just trying to figure things out, he knew where you should have been the entire time, right?
Exactly.
And so it's trusting in his plan and what he has in store for you. And I think there's blessings on the other side of that. And I think there's this perception that life is something other than getting your teeth kicked in all the time, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I experience it every day. I get my teeth kicked in every day, so to speak. And I think anybody who's striving for anything greater in life does, because doesn't matter what business you're in, it doesn't matter what you're pursuing. Um, Everybody is going to come up against obstacles and hurdles. You're going to take your L's along the way. You're going to have days where you feel like you just barely did enough to get by, and you hope it's enough. I think that's life,
Yeah,
right?
that is
And so, and
the crazy
as
thing
a
that we
young,
do, but wouldn't trade it for anything.
yeah, man. And I think that if you're going to be getting your teeth kicked in, it might as well be in something that you're halfway passionate about, which is, the outfitting, guiding for you. So
Yep.
I'm happy for you to see it flourishing. I'm sure that you're still learning tons of lessons along the way. And if you were to tell me you're not, then I really would have to humble you, because that's just business.
Yeah,
You're
business
learning every day.
sucks. I mean, you know it as well as I do. I mean, it's that was one of the things that you just jump into and you're like, oh, no biggie. First year I realized, I was like, I am terrible at paperwork. I was like, okay. It's like, first lesson learned: hire somebody to do the stuff you're not good at. And I think one of the biggest blessings from my line of work is the people you get to be around. It takes a certain kind of guy to spend $20,000 every year to come hunt elk with you in September, and they're traditionally fairly successful people, or people who have saved for a couple years, who've worked really hard to be there and made it a priority. And just being around people of that status and who have been successful, you learn so much. I I don't know how many times that guys have just mentioned a little tidbit, or you're sitting there kind of eavesdropping on their phone call, and you, like, a light bulb clicks. And I've got one that, like, really speaks to me. I had a client. He has a um, pretty big health and wellness center. He was a professional tennis coach for a while, and super super successful human. Who he's a very intense guy. He showed up in camp, and I'm like, he's one of those guys who's like, I'm here to hunt my brains out and nothing else. Like, I'm pretty sure fun isn't in his vocabulary. And you just watch his wheels spinning all the time, and you're like, what is he thinking about? I'm like, is he judging? Is he trying to? And he killed a bull first morning with two of my guides, crushed an awesome bull, got him out, and I get back to camp, and everything's hunky-dory, we're having dinner. He's like, Braden, we're talking in the morning. And I was like, it's first year as an outfitter. I'm like, oh no, like what did they do? And we sit down. He goes, you got a notepad? I said, yep. And he just starts spewing everything, anything and everything about. He did one of those like they like sandwiched the good and the bad and the ugly all together. Started with good, let me know what was going on, and ended with good. He was like, awesome camp, awesome guides, awesome experience, awesome hunt. This is what I see in your business. And he's just one of those people who just shared lessons he's learned the hard way throughout. And I still carry all of those things where I've implemented most of those things he said that would help. And there's some things that I took and tweaked. And I don't know how many times I've had guys like that just even just in passing mention something and you're like the light bulb goes off and you're like that's going to save me a lot of headache. And it's like it's at the point now where one of those things he talked about was he was like, what is your permit, like what is your logistical side of things do? He's like, you put your heart and soul into the hunting side. And he was like, what holds you back from that? I was like, paperwork, contracts, invoices, stuff like that. He goes, just hire somebody. And you're like, it's something as simple as that I feel like as business owners, new business owners, we feel like we have to do everything. We have to make sure our hands are in every pot, stir in every dish, but one of them's going to burn up eventually. So if you can hire someone else to take over one of those dishes for you, then makes your life a whole lot easier. And yeah, I mean, it's been having those mentors is huge, even though they may not feel like they're doing it. They may just be doing it just because like that. Just, hey, yeah, maybe do this, or you've got guys like this hunter who sit you down and want you to be successful. And those are all lessons that I didn't have to learn the hard way solely because I've got these guys that I'm surrounded with every week of my life.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Man, I didn't know. Excuse me, I'm battling this cold here. I didn't know all I had to do was ask you to take out a pen and a notebook, and then I could start critiquing you and your business. We'll have to save that for a different podcast episode, maybe. No, I'm just
Save
kidding,
it for your
man.
wife. We'll crack a bowl and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, no doubt, dude. No, in all seriousness, you run a great business, and I've had nothing but great experiences hunting with you in New Mexico. I haven't hunted with you anywhere else, but I'm sure it's just the same. And so, tell us about some of your most memorable experiences since starting college, or even before that, when you were just a guide. Maybe is there a crazy hunt that stands out to you? Is there just a wild story that you want to share? I mean, what comes to mind? Like, it can be wild, it can be crazy, it could be fulfilling, whatever it is. What hunts stand out in your mind?
We've got so many. I mean, we do so much volume that we could have a solid 7 episode podcast series on just guide stories. We've had like heartbreaking misses or guys that have had like just this last year I had two childhood best friends come out, and it was like his last hunt. He'd been battling heart disease, and it was like his last two raw where sometimes you don't know, those guys don't make it vocal. And then like he killed just a creature of a mule deer, just a magnum. And I rolled up, I'm excited, it's a big deer, and this guy kind of starts off in tears, and I'm like, you good? I was like, I'm kind of on the edge of them. Just, I mean, mule deer are kind of the bane of my existence. I hate them. So whenever I kill a big one, it gets me worked up. And it's like, you good? And he just tells his whole life story about how this was like last year raw with his best friend, and he's got a couple months to live, and he just wanted to go out and have one last good hunt with the boys. And we've had hunts that like you're against all odds where you're like sub 2% success rates where guys are trusting you with everything and the stars align and you get them an ibex killed or whatever. And, we have so many good fond memories that they outweigh the bad. You're going to have those clients. We always talk about the guys that miss or the guys that are just the bane of your existence for the week. And you're like, I can't wait for this guy to go home. And
We won't name their names on the podcast.
yeah. And but you have so many happy memories that outweigh those. Like just to name like the one that always kind of comes up, we had an ibex, me and a guy that I have a similar relationship with, Andrew. His name's Derek Harris, here on South Peak Guide Service. It's who I do all my ibex hunting with. There's a saga of this Billy we had named Flair. It's like a solid 45-minute story about if we needed to go into all the depth. And um, we finally had a humble guy who drew the tag, didn't buy an auction tag, just came in on his own dime, hunted hard, and the stars aligned. And after 4.5 years, we finally killed this Billy. Derek's crying, I'm crying. Nemo, one of our guides up there, he's on top of the mountain with the hunter, just screaming. Hunter's crying. It was just one of those things where we had worked so hard and so long to get this Billy killed. When we finally did, it was like it still feels surreal. Like I'll go back through and catch myself looking through those photo albums with that Billy, and um, that's one that really stands out. Like another one, like my first wild sheep as an outfitter. Like I said, like I was a Jack O'Connor fan. That was the only books that anybody could get me to read, and so Wild Sheep's always had this like special place in my heart. And me and Derek Martinez got a last minute call to go guide a Rocky Mountain Bighorn sheep and killed a cranker of a ram. It was one of those hunts that wasn't like technically hard, but it was emotionally or like intellectually and emotionally challenging, from logistics and access and dealing with weather and adverse conditions and sheep not doing what they needed to do in a short time frame. Kill the caliber ram we did was super special. So we've got tons and tons of stories, but most of them end up revolving around those hunts that, like, against all odds, you pull off and make it successful, whether it's personally or for clients. Like, it's the same. And I get just as excited when I watch clients smash something that never in a million years thought that I'd be sitting there looking at, and it panned out the way it was supposed to, and we beat the success rates that were sub 1%. It's those are the ones that really stand out to me.
Yeah. Yeah. The reason we're talking with you today is because you were one of our springtime edition Tied to the Land winners for your post that you put on Instagram. And it had to do with sheep hunting specifically,
Yep.
and the bond that's created through sheep hunting and the trials and tribulations. So I feel like it's a good segue. Why do you feel like sheep hunting above everything else is rooted in you? Why do you feel like when you think of being tied to the land, like sheep hunting for you is the first thing that comes to mind?
Yeah. So I was an Air Force brat, so we bounced all around, moved to New Mexico. We lived on base for a couple years. My dad retired. We moved out and moved outside of town a little bit. Like being a young kid, I had all my friends that lived in the neighborhood. We'd go out and play in the street and stuff, and moved out in the country. And I'm like, I was bummed. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, I can't just go the mile down the road to go play with the neighbor's kids. And I'm like, whatever, I'm going to have to figure out how to make my own fun. But turns out lived a mile off the base of an over-the-counter aoudad unit in New Mexico. When I kind of figured that out and was growing as a hunter to appreciate those things, it was like anything my parents could do to get me to not sit on the front porch and watch sheep. I just tore up with them, still am. Like, it's just a crippling addiction. And so, like, my whole high school, I don't want to say hunting career, but like every fleeting moment I had was going and watching sheep. Like, I'd get in trouble and be like, hey, we need you to like go to Boy Scouts or get your Eagle Scout, or you need to do your homework. Where are you? And I'm like, across the road looking for sheep. And so it was like, it's one of the harder hunts in the lower 48 right now to be successful and kill a mature ram in that unit. And we got really good at it and started being really successful killing some great sheep. And it was one of those things that it tested you mentally, where you could go weeks and not see a mature ram, or even months and sometimes of the year, where you're going out a couple times a week, hunting hard, looking around, and just not seeing a living soul. And then you may go out on a random Wednesday after school, and there's just some freakazoid hanging out there in the bluffs. And then now you got to go climb 3,000 vertical feet to get there and make a good play, or you may be in a bad spot. Now you got to keep track of that sheep for 3, 4, 5 days, even a week sometimes, to where he's in a killable spot where you can even get there. So that was like what my high school looked like. And then it got to the point where I was like being successful with buddies killing sheep, and then clients are being successful, and it just kind of spiraled into any and all sheep across New Mexico and Texas, where like I was doing anything I could to be on every sheep or goat hunt, bighorns, ibex, aoudad, you name it, I'm gonna be there. And the thing that draws it to me is it's type 2 fun. It's one of those things that sucks while you're doing it. There's nothing. You're hating life, you're on giant hikes, you're getting just absolutely beat down physically and mentally. And then there's just this little glimmer of hope. You're sitting there glassing, and all of a sudden you see a ram out there cruising around. It's wide open. You're like, where have you been the last 3 weeks? And now he's there. That being successful after all of that beat down, because it's polarized, it makes that high feel so much higher. But it's the one place that like this ego and pride that we've talked about is totally set aside, where everybody rolls into a sheep camp with a chip on their shoulder and something to prove. And the second you go out to start glassing, it has to go away. It's like we could have 5, 6 guys on this crew, couple guides, spotters, cooks, hunters, buddies. Like sheep hunts are big deals, and everybody wants to be a part of them. And unless everybody puts pride aside and lets go of it, you're not going to be successful. There's so much country, you have to work as a team. And it's a refreshing feeling watching everybody go through the struggle bus together, where you got odds stacked against you. But if you go and, okay, let's say by yourself you have 10% chance of killing a sheep, now you got 10 dudes, you're going to kill one, but you have to make sure everybody's rolling the dice the same way at the same time. So it's something that grows like huge bonds and friendships. Like the guy that I ibex hunt with his outfit with South Peak, I take all of my ibex hunters there. He runs the Rock, and we spend about 60 to 80 days there a year on what is the hardest bow hunt in arguably the world right now. And just getting beat down for 15 days at a time. And our bond and friendship is something that'll never go away. Like it's like one of those, we've been through that, we can go through anything else. So it's the polarizing feeling of going from utter beatdown to the pinnacle of success with a group of like-minded people who are also going through the same beatdown. Like the energy is just electric when it all comes together. Like it's a bad day to be a bottle of beer in Deming, New Mexico, when an ibex gets shot. Like, so
Yeah.
that's one of the things that really strikes me to it, that I talked about in that post, that I didn't really get a deep dive into, that I wish I would have, is the bond that you grow with these guys, that everything gets put away. It's the only thing you can focus on. You don't think about what's going on back home. You just focus on getting to that next ridge, checking this next drainage, just wash, rinse, repeat until you find an ancient being of a ram. Like people talk about mature whitetails being 4, 5, 6.5. Those rams are still subadults. I mean, we're killing 10 to 14-year-old sheep. They've been on that rock. They've been around. They know what's up. So you have to be on your A game, which is super cool to me. And then on the flip side of that token, it takes you places that you would never in a million years go unless you had a rifle or a bow in your hand and you're going to go chase sheep. Like, nobody's going to go to the Otero Mesa south of Alamogordo. It's like halfway between Alamogordo and El Paso. It's just this godforsaken place. Dust is terrible, no water. It's not pretty. And then you get there and it's got this rugged beauty that you just can't describe. Like, you'll sit there and watch the Milky Way every night. There's no light pollution. It's like I would never go there unless I was chasing sheep, or going down to the Florida Mountains in Deming, where it's like The easiest way to describe it was like if anybody has watched the movie The Mule with Clint Eastwood. He goes and helps those people change the flat tire. There's those godforsaken peaks in the background. Those are Floridas, and we're up in those rocks chasing ibex around. Like, you wouldn't go there unless you were looking for these goats. And you get up in the bluffs and start finding just cool stuff. Or down in Texas, you're sitting there, you're in Valverde County. There's nothing. There's a gas station. Like, that's it in Valverde, and like 2 single wides. Why would I go there? I'm chasing on out around, and you're sitting there kind of in these like cool river drainages and bluffs and the Devil's River, and you're sitting there hiking around finding big pottery chunks and arrowheads. And it's another place that you never go unless you're trying to kill a sheep. And you get this appreciation for this ultra rugged beauty. And then on the flip side, you get into like the bighorns and thinhorns. It's, I don't want to go hike up to a 14,000 foot peak to look down for sheep or just cuz, but if I'm sheep hunting, I'm gonna go climb it. And it's like you go into these like postcard style drainages and just soak it all up. That, I mean, you may be places that only a handful of people have ever been. And those sheep, you may be the first human those sheep have ever seen. Like, it's just this crazy thing that we get to go chase around, and we're super blessed to be able to do it. So that's really like, it ties me to the land that way, because we're getting a deeper connection than anybody ever will.
Yeah, that's so awesome, man. And you know what's really interesting, since we've done this whole Tied to the Land campaign, if you will, if you want to call it that, um, there's some people, myself included, who for most of my life, I would say, like, my tie to the land was like escaping everyday life and like being able to reflect and be alone and to think and to spend time in prayer or to spend time observing the animals, harvesting the animals, whatever it is. But the older I get, the more I long for that camaraderie that you're talking about in sheep
Hmm.
hunting. And I think that's what's so cool about sheep hunting is everything you just described, none of it had anything to do with self. None of it had to do with like you go and you do this by yourself because you want to be by yourself and you want to kill the biggest sheep by yourself. Like you just talked all about camaraderie and about how you have all these people who are a part of this hunt and making it successful. And it's those people who keep a positive attitude and who grind it out with you and make this a memorable experience. And I think that is so awesome that the land is able to ultimately provide that camaraderie for you and those memories. And like while you were talking, I was just eating that up because I felt like I was there with you, you know.
Hmm.
And that's something that until you've experienced something similar, you can't fully comprehend it. Um, but I think that's amazing, man. We're coming up towards the end of this thing, but I wanted to ask you, what's been the most heartbreaking hunt that you've ever been a part of? Like where just went from riding a what seemed like an absolute high to just ending in absolute heartbreak. Like what's that hunt been for you?
For me, that one's archery ibex. Like, we had a heartbreaker. Everybody's heard it. It's one of those that's like, that one's gonna eat at me. But the that ibex suck. I hate them. I love them, but I hate them. That archery hunt has a sub 1% success rate. They give out 300 tags a year, and there's times that nobody kills a billy. Um, and you go and you have these awesome dudes that you go and you just struggle bus it with. I mean, you're hiking up every day. It's hotter than sin. It's like 105. You're hiking up there trying to make a play for the evening, for their evening move. And you go and you work so hard. I've got this saying that ibex do ibex things, and whenever they do it, you feel about the size of a snuff can. Like, you just went on some 4 hour death march to this pinnacle, and it took you an hour and a half to get up there, and then you watch them scale that pinnacle in 5 minutes and end up across the drainage. And it's gonna take you 6 hours to get over there, and it's fixing to be jet black dark. So you have pretty much 15 days of heartbreak, and I've had it where we've gotten shots, first play, first stock, stars align, airball. Like, it's some of the most technically challenging shooting ever. Like, I've had dudes cut arrows loose shooting across like big crevasses, and it's dead still where you are, and you can see that billy, and it's dead still, and they shoot at 40, 50, 60 yards. Arrow cuts across that big crevasse, and you just watch it raise 5, 10, 15 feet, and hit yards above that billy because there's a giant updraft. You just didn't know it was there. And so you just get beat down for like 15 days, and these guys are on this once in a lifetime hunt that realistically they'll never draw again. And you're just getting beat down after beat down after beat down. And you just watch your time taking down. And you sit there and you stare at the ceiling all night. You're like, what can I do different? And how'd this one not pan out? Why'd this nanny bust me before that billy stepped out? Why'd we miss this? Did I not give him the right yardage? And it makes you think about every little thing you do. And this last year, we had a guy, amazing human, one of those kind of mentor types. Like, you spend a lot of time glassing. I mean, you'll spend 7, 8 hours a day glassing in the bottom with these guys. And super cool story, awesome human. And he had been there 2 years. He'd drawn that tag. This was his third time. And he's getting older, and you can tell he's not getting up the mountain as quick as he used to. And he's like, dude, this is my dream. Like, he's been on the cover of like Eastman's and Epic Outdoors and Hunting Fool. He's killed more 200-inch mule deer with his bow than CWD. Like, he's been there, done that. And you go and you watch, like, this is the one thing that is like last on his bucket list. And we hunted hard. The numbers are really down right now. It's a whole other story. But I find this billy in a kill hole, like absolute blessing, gift from God. And I'm like, I haven't seen a billy in this pocket for years because the numbers are so low. And it's one of those spots that you see it and you know you're going to kill that billy. And it's been years since I've had that feeling. Like, I've had some stuff that's panned out. I was like, dang, never thought that would have happened. But this one was like, this billy's dead. I've got the right dude, the right stock, the right wind, the right position, the sun, like everything's perfect. And I give my hunter a radio, and I told him, I was like, guy, you're good. Like, you've been here before. You know what to do. Get up there and kill that billy. And I was going to walk him in. And me and Derek, and we start dropping him in, giving him directions. Hit this rock, hit this bluff. Okay, you're 200 yards out. Take your boots off. Okay, you're $150. And he gives us the signal that he can see that billy. And I asked him, I was like, all right, click the radio once for however many. Andrew, you've heard this before. Click the radio once for however many yards you are. Ones every 10, double click for 2, whatever. And he hits the radio 4 times. I was like, he's 40 yards from a giant billy. And I'm like, this billy's dead. One of the easiest shots I've ever seen on this rock. Billy stands up, starts feeding around, starts feeding to him. I'm like, this billy's so toast. And the guy's patient. We're just telling him, like, hey, do your thing. Like, you've got it. And it was probably a solid 45 minutes of me at the edge of my chair watching this go down. I see him come to full draw. And I'm like, this is happening. I was like, this billy's dead. And we've been on a little bit of a dry spell. Just bad luck. Missed billies. Billy's not doing what they needed to do. I was like, this is our slump buster billy right here. And yeah, we proceed to shoot like 1.5 feet over this billy's back. And so that guy spent 45 days on that rock getting a beat down, and he finally got a shot and missed. So that one I've had bad dreams about. I've like woke up in a cold sweat, snapped out of bed. And but we've got one more chance. He bought an auction tag. He's got all year to hunt. He's got 365 days, and we're all stoked. We're like, Royce will shoot one with a rifle. And he was like, hey, boys. He's a good old boy from South Texas. Boys, yep. Yeah, don't even bring a rifle to camp. I'm taking that bow up there. So we've got one more last year raw with that guy. So, but that one, as of recent, is that one's a crier. That one, I cried a lot that night. Cried in the shower. Cried myself to sleep. It's like so close to perfection, and just don't get it.
Dang. Well, maybe the lesson in all of this is God has tied you to the land and tied you to sheep hunting to continue to humble you as
Yep.
you continue down your journey in life and in business
Precisely.
and helping other people, be successful on their
Yep. If
hunts.
I get
So,
if I get a slice of humble pie this season, it's always during sheep season. It's the way that it makes me feel human. It reminds me that I'm not all this in a bag of chips. And you're letting a hoofed ungulate give you the workaround, and you're like, yeah, I am. So they've got a weird way of doing that.
awesome, man. Well, thank you for taking the time to sit down with us today. If somebody wants to get a hold of you or if somebody's interested in hunting with you, learning more about what options they have and doing so, how can they get a hold
Yeah,
of
the
you?
best way is just my cell number. We're still pretty small. I mean, I work with everybody personally, so just give me a call. My number's 575-921-5324. That you can find us on Instagram. It's I just have a personal Instagram right now. It's B Finnegan _CGS. Or you can shoot us an email at Callis Guide Service, CALLIS Guide Service at gmail.com.
Right on, man. Yeah, again, I can personally attest to Braden has a great business, provides a great hunt, great experience. You know, my wife and I have great memories already hunting with him. My brother and I on my bull late season archery hunt. Just incredible memories, incredible guy. Just they're going to work hard to get the job done for you, and you don't feel like that with every place you go. Sometimes it feels like it's just a formality, you being there. They don't really have any expectations of you being successful, and you don't ever feel that way when you're in camp with Braden. You always feel like there's a chance. So, little plug for you and your business there, bro. I love
Love you
you.
too, man.
Appreciate you coming
Of course.
on. Appreciate your support, and
We'll have to run it back with Julia in October.
no doubt. Yep. Yeah. Julia's got that rifle hunt coming up.
Be a bad day to be out.
That's exciting. Maybe we'll be doing another. Yeah, so stay tuned on that. But we are doing the summer Tied to the Land promotion right now. So whatever you sheep guys are doing during the summertime, be sure to share that with everybody.
Oh yeah, we're gonna remind you guys one more time that spring bears are definitely better than turkeys. So
spring bears. Well, we're not in spring. Spring bears are not better than turkeys, but I can't necessarily say that I know for sure because I've never been on a spring bear hunt.
Yep.
But anyway, man, we're going to get off of here. Thanks for your time. Appreciate you. This is the Tied to the Land podcast. I'm Andrew Schultz, and this is Braden Finnegan with Callis Guide Service. And we'll catch you next time.